Well, hello there, fifth graders, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me on the Sun Devil Learning Labs for fifth grade ELA. I am just loving all the summer activities we've been doing and all the games we've playing. And I'm just so happy that you're joining me and that you've come back. And I'm excited for today's lessons. And if this is your first time, my name is Mrs. Wilson. Let's get started. So yesterday we talked, remember I told you it was a 2-day lesson. Oh, it's already trying to skip to the next one. Let me move me down. So it's a 2-day lesson. So yesterday we're really understanding themes in Esperanza Rising. Our objective yesterday was I can interpret 2 big metaphors in chapter 8, Las Almendras, in Esperanza Rising. I can explain what it means to find the theme of a book or story, and then I can identify themes in Esperanza Rising. So yesterday we really focused on all those metaphors, the 2 big ones that they were talking about. And then today I said we're going to talk a little more about theme. So today there is no entrance ticket because we did it yesterday, and this is a 2-day thing because we really want to make sure that you guys have these down because they're such good skills. Like everything we're learning, I promise you, you guys will be using it all throughout school and definitely if you go to college. And very interesting, fun stuff. But today's objective is we're going to be doing more of that, but we're going to be honing in on themes. And so today you'll be able to say, I can explain what it means to find the theme or book of a book or a story. And I could identify themes in Esperanza Rising. So for a little icebreaker, we're gonna do What Am I? It's the summer edition. So I don't know if you've ever played this before, but basically you'll get a description and you have to decide what am I? So to be helpful, I gave you guys a word bank. So I might use the word floaty. I might use the word popsicle. I might use the word pool. I might use the word sunblock, or I might use the word sun. So here are the rules. So number 1, there'll be 4 descriptions. Number 2, you will choose a word from the word bank. So it's definitely going to be one of those words. There's no trickery here. So it's definitely going to be one of those. And number 3, you'll ask yourself which best fits the description. So it's really going to try to decide it. And it's going to ask you, what am I? And it's definitely going to be one of these words. And number 4, then I will reveal which 4 pictures I picked. You guys ready to play? Our summer edition is definitely a theme. So these are all supporting things that I'm using to help us with our summer edition theme, right? All right, so here we go. Go ahead and pull out, oh, I didn't even tell you that. So just like always, you guys will need your ELA notebook, you'll need your pencil and a clear workspace. So if you need to pause and gather those things, that'll be great. I just jumped on in. I was just so excited about today's game. So I'm gonna kind of move this around. So you want to draw this in your ELA notebook. You're gonna draw 4 squares and you're gonna number them 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, if you wanna pause and write everything I wrote, you're more than welcome to. Or if you just wanna write number 1, number 2, number 3, and then guess what you think I'm talking about. So I really want you to think about which words I used and which one I'm describing. So I'm gonna go, as you guys are doing that, if you need a pause, go ahead, but I'm gonna go ahead and read these. So I'm gonna start with number 1. I am a frozen goodie. I can be made out of fruit. I can be all sorts of colors, and I can be the colors of the rainbow. I am cold. If you leave me out, I will melt. What am I? Take some time to think about it, and you know what? It's okay. We're going to work on these together, okay? Number 2. I'm a huge body of water. People like to do cannonballs into me. People like to dive into me, and I'm a summertime favorite. If left out in winter, I freeze. What am I? Again, pause if you need to. Number 3, I protect your skin from the sun. It is important to lather me up before playing outside. I am waterproof. You must reapply me few times if you are outside for long periods of time. What am I? And number 4, I am a huge star. I am very hot. I come out for long periods of time in the summer. I make things hot. If you look at me, you must wear sunglasses. If you're going to spend time with me, be sure to drink lots of water. What am I? What am I? Go ahead and pause if you need to. All right, what am I? My first one, number 1, I said, I am a frozen goodie. I can be made out of fruit. I can be all sorts of colors. I can be the colors of the rainbow, and I am cold. If you leave me out, I melt. What am I? Did you guys guess it? Ooh, that's a nice 4th of July type of popsicle. Very nice. See, that turned out great. Very good. All right, let's go to our next one. What am I? I am a huge body of water. People like to do cannonballs into me. People like to dive into me, and I am a summertime favorite. If I'm left out in the winter, I freeze. What am I? What is that? A pool. Very good. See, you guys are doing these. You're learning and knowing all these great skills without even trying. We're definitely inferring things right here. This is fantastic. All right. Our next one. What am I? Number 3. I protect your skin from the sun. It is important to lather me up before playing outside. I am waterproof. You must reapply me a few times if you're outside for long periods of time. What am I? If you guess sunblock, good job. Wow, these summer things are doing great with you guys. This is great. And last but not least, number 4, what am I? I'm a huge star and I'm very hot. I come out for long periods of time in the summertime. I make things hot, and if you look at me, you must wear sunglasses. If you're going to spend some time with me, be sure to drink lots of water. What am I? Ooh, what is that? That's up and close, but it might look different because if you guess sun, you're correct. This is what it looks real close, but far away it looks a little different, right? Okay, so this is your challenge. I didn't use the word floaty, so we're gonna reverse the roles right now, right? I gave you the picture, I wrote floaty. So in your ELA notebook, I want you to pause and I want you to write, what am I in your ELA notebook using a floaty? So I want you to kind of do what Mrs. Wilson did and write a little paragraph, and it doesn't have to be great. Let's try to use a capital and a punctuation, at least 3 or 4 well-written sentences, right? And make sure we have a little paragraph and do your best and come up with it. You know, what's some of the things that floaty does? And if you're talking for the floaty, what would you be like? And then you get to say, what am I? And maybe you can ask, you know, read this to your parents or to somebody that you're with or somebody at your daycare, however you need to do it. So go ahead and pause, and this is your challenge. This is almost like your entry ticket because, you know, we already did our quiz yesterday. So this is just for fun. You can draw it in your ELA notebook. Go ahead and pause. All right, so now we're gonna do a little thing. We are gonna vote. So right now I just need you to listen. I'm gonna show you, you get to vote, and it's either 1, 2, or 3. So I'm gonna read these out. They're Inferring themes in Esperanza, and we're gonna kind of talk about it. So you get to vote. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is all based on your beliefs and what you think. And the only thing I'm challenging you is if you vote for one of these, then be sure that you're able to back these up, right? So put a number 1 up. Put your number 1 finger up if you believe life is like a rose. Now there's bunch of inferences in this book about life is like a rose. And then if you think life is like a rose, put your number 1 finger up and keep it up, right? Very good. Put your number 2 finger up if you agree with Martha that the poor workers are like kittens. So 1, if you think life is like a rose. 2, if you agree with Martha that the poor workers are like kittens. And if you thought about it and couldn't think of anything to back it up, put 3 fingers up if you are not sure. So go ahead and vote. This is your time to vote. 1, if you think life is like a rose. 2, if you agree with Martha that the workers are like kittens. And 3, put your fingers up if you are not sure. Now go ahead and vote and write it down in your ELA book, and I really want you to back it up. So if you pick life is like a rose, you can be like, Esperanza's having some rough moments because of the pokey parts of the rose, but yet she's so beautiful and she's growing. Or life is beautiful, but yet hard sometimes, however you want to put it. It doesn't have to do just with Esperanza. But if you think sometimes workers are like kittens and, like looking for a home like all the examples that they've given in the book, go ahead and put 2 and write why. And 3, if you're just not sure, go ahead and write 3 and just say, whether you couldn't choose one, and you can write your reasons down where you kind of think, oh, well, I think I agree with both of them. Sometimes, you can go on either side, and then you need some more time just to be confident with one. And Mrs. Wilson may pick 1 for one reason, may pick 2 for another reason, and then because I just can't agree, sometimes I might just pick 3. But go ahead and vote now and write those down in your ELA notebook. Okay, boys and girls, so to get started with our lesson today, literature or reading, or anytime we're reading literature, that's kind of an umbrella word, contains both little metaphors, which might show up in a sentence, right? Like Mrs. Wilson table is a pig pen, that's something small within a sentence. And sometimes they have big metaphors, often symbols, such as metaphors about the rose and the kitten that we just talked about. The big metaphors can point the way towards a book, big ideas or themes. So I know we're learning so many things, but sometimes there's little, sometimes there's big. And yesterday we talked about 2 big themes in Esperanza, or 2 big metaphors, which are all kind of pointing to a big idea or a big theme. And I know that may or may not sound confusing, but that's just another component. Like sometimes there's little ones and sometimes there's big ones. I don't know if you guys ever read this story. I remember reading it when I was a little girl. And the title of the book is called The Tortoise and the Hare. Now, the reason why they brought up this example is because the story is a big metaphor. Throughout the whole one, they're racing, right? And nobody believes that the turtle is going to win, but he wins, right? So in which the animals represent a slow and steady person, so that is the tortoise. And then there's a fast but careless person, and that is the rabbit or the hare. Or bunny, it doesn't matter. So the big idea or the theme of this fable, which is a fictional story, that perseverance pays off. That means like slow and steady wins the race. And sometimes fast and careless doesn't always win the race. So there's a huge big metaphor that people are trying to portray in this book, because in real life this is not happening, but we can relate to this in real life in other situations, because sometimes people want to be in a hurry when we're trying to get our homework done and just answer whatever because they're trying to be the first one done, but we'll miss a lot of answers, right? So with the tortoise, they were like slow and steady, so they're taking their time. They're taking their time to read the questions and really think about them and write it down. And even though they don't finish first, they might get an A plus, to where the person that finished first may not have gotten a great grade. And there's so many times that you can use this big metaphor that they used in this book also in real life situations. And we can do that like in games and anywhere. It could even be with cooking. It could relate in so many things. And that's why the big metaphor, sometimes you have to find what the author is really trying to say. Now, if you really have no experience with this book, The Tortoise and the Hare, you can look it up or look at your local library, and definitely look it up. And I'll try to put it in on my paper. I'll have to try to find you guys a PDF of this so that you guys can read it if you haven't. But I did give away a big hint, and that the big metaphor is slow and steady always wins the race. Not always, but in this book it does, and that was the big metaphor. So there's lots and lots of metaphors in Esperanza. So we are going to look over there's like 4 really big metaphors in the book that we're really going to find what the author's theme is, or what are they trying to say. And in this instance, it's she. What is she trying to say? So the first one in Esperanza Rising is the Earth's heartbeat. Now, we first heard about that on page number 2. So we're going to go ahead and read it together. So if you're with me, go ahead and read it together with the reading finger. And then we'll answer this question together, okay? So Papa lay down on his stomach and looked up at her, patting the ground next to him. Esperanza smoothed her dress and knelt down. Then, like a caterpillar, she slowly inched flat next to him, and their faces were looking at each other. The warm sun pressed on Esperanza's cheek, and the warm earth on the other, and she giggled. "Shh," he said. "You can only feel the heartbeat when you are still and quiet." She swallowed her laughter after a moment and said, "I can't hear it, Papi." "Aguante tantino y la fruta caerá en tu mano," he said. "Wait a little while, and the fruit will fall into your hand." "You must be patient, Esperanza." She waited and lay silent, watching Papi's eyes, and then she felt it. Softly at first, a gentle thumping, then stronger, a resounding thud, thud, thud against her body. She could hear it too, the beat rushing into her ears. Shoom, shoom, shoom. So right here, they're saying that you can, when you're slow and steady, you can hear the Earth's heartbeat. So after her dad dies, later on in the chapter, they talked about Esperanza no longer being able to hear it. So what do you think the author is trying to show when she writes that Esperanza can no longer hear the Earth's heartbeat? And so right here, if you can notice, she's laughing, she's giggling, she's having this small, intimate moment with her father where they're together and they're feeling just the warmth from the ground and the sun. And sometimes when your body's in tune with something, you can hear it and lively because things are growing, the trees are growing and the flowers are growing and they're feeling great. And she's feeling this sort of heartbeat and it's getting her excited. Now, after her dad or her papa died, she's really upset and all these changes are happening to her, right? And she has to get on a train and then she goes to Mexico and she's having to learn how to take her own bath and has to do stuff that she's never had to do before, like sweeping and taking care of a baby and changing diapers and having to wash and doing all these hard things. And right now her heart is sad, right? Her heart is sad because there's all these changes and her dad died and things are so different. And so right now, Esperanza can no longer hear the Earth's heartbeat. Now, that is definitely a metaphor because the Earth really doesn't have a heartbeat, right? But it's meaning something. And what is the author trying to portray? And maybe she can hear it again one day, but right now she no longer hears it because it's trying to say that her heart is sad. She is sad right now, and she can't hear the earth's heartbeat. And she feels so far away from Papa right now because she no longer lives there in Agua Caliente. And she's feeling sad because they're moving. And so right now her heart is sad, and so she can't hear that heartbeat. But I'm feeling pretty confident that she might gain him back or not. I'm not sure. What's your stance on that? And if you would like to take a second to jot down what you think the author is trying to portray or what his theme is, because he keeps breaking this up, so it must be important, right? Or she, it's a she. Okay. Okay, so the next metaphor we're going to talk about is on page 18. So it's the river between Esperanza and Miguel. And now we've heard that a couple of times too. So why do you think this is a theme, or why do you think this keeps coming up? We're going to read it together right here, and we're going to kind of brainstorm and try to understand what this metaphor is, right? So now that she was a young woman, she understood that Miguel was the housekeeper's son, and she was the ranch owner's daughter. And between them ran a deep river. Esperanza stood on one side and Miguel stood on the other, and the river could never be crossed. In a moment of self-importance, Esperanza had told all this to Miguel. Since then, he had spoken only a few words to her. When their paths crossed, he nodded and said politely, "Mi reina, my queen," but nothing more. There was no teasing or laughing or talking about every little thing. Esperanza pretended not to care, though she secretly wished she had never told Miguel about the river. So I really want you to hone in on this word right here, self-importance. What do you think that means? So sometimes when people feel self-important, that means they feel proud, or they almost feel a little better. And in this instance, that is a metaphor. So there's really not a river between them, right? There's no river actually running. She is trying to say that she is almost better than him because she's rich and she's this, and he's not. He is the he's the helper. And so she's trying to say that even though they're together, that there's something that separates them, right? And this is not true. And the river is no longer there after a while, I think. But on page 18, this is the big theme. And I wonder why she keeps bringing this up. And I wonder if it's going to come up again. But this is definitely a metaphor, because there's not really a river in between them, but it is a big metaphor, right? Okay, great. Now we are going to, let me move myself so we can read. The rose bush. Now this has been brought up a few times, and we definitely talked about it. So it's on we're going to read the bottom of page 8, and then we're going to read up to page 9, and then we'll kind of do what we've been doing and talk about it together. So Papa had a promise to meet her in the garden, and he have never disappointed her. She bent over to pick a red bloom fully open, and it pricked her finger on a vicious thorn. Big pearls of blood pulsed up from the tip of her thumb, and she automatically thought, bad luck. She quickly wrapped her hand in the corner of the apron and dismissed the premonition. Then she cautiously clipped the blown rose that had wounded her. Looking toward the horizon, she saw the last sun disappear behind the Sierra Madre. Darkness would settle quickly, and feeling of uneasiness and worried had nagged her. So they said that every time she talked about the rose poking her, everybody said it's bad luck. Now that is definitely a metaphor, because, you know, pricking your finger, even though it hurts, is not really bad luck, because bad luck is not really a thing. But they're assuming that there is a metaphor that she was trying to think, because they're trying to build you up to something, right? These roses are beautiful. She's looking forward to her party. And we know after she pokes her finger, she finds out that her papa died. And so they're kind of alluding to something, and that bad luck. And so they're kind of letting you know. And they said this word, which somebody had already highlighted for me in my book, is the premonition. And it's almost like an insight, you know, something bad's coming and something bad's going to happen. And when she poked her finger, she thought it was bad luck. And that is definitely a huge metaphor in our reading and in Esperanza. And there's lots of things of these throughout the book. And you've got to ask yourself, what is the infuriating thing? You know, like earlier we were talking about, you know, summertime things, and I was giving you what is it? Why are they doing that? Why is the author doing this? And why is this important? And they're giving you all these clues for the big picture, right? And I was giving you all these clues, and then the big picture was like a popsicle. So the author is giving us all these little cues, because what is the big picture and what is going to happen, right? And these are definitely big metaphors in Esperanza Rising. Then we have the kitten on page 132. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to read it again to remind us, and then we'll talk about why the kitten is such a big metaphor in Esperanza Rising. And they said it was an orange kitten. Isn't that kitten cute? So we're going to start right here. Go ahead and follow along with your reading finger. So this is what we are, she yelled. Small, meek animals. And this is how they treat us because we don't speak up. If we don't ask for what is rightfully ours, we will never get it. Is this how we want to live? And she held that kitten up by the back of his neck, waving it in the air. It hung limp in front of the crowd with no, you know, kind of like how they did in Lion King, where they hold the kitten up and it's just kind of hanging there. That's kind of what they're doing with this kitten in the book. And with no decent home, at the mercy of those bigger than us, richer than us, Isabella trembled her eyes in panic. Will she drop it? A man called out, maybe all that cat wants to do is feed its family. Maybe it doesn't care what all the other cats are doing. Senor, does it not bother you that some of your compadres live better than others? Yelled one of Martha's friends. We are going to strike in 2 weeks at the peak of the cotton for higher wages and better housing. We don't pick cotton on this farm, yelled another man from their camp. What does it matter, yelled Martha, if we all, and then it goes on, and of course they left, and we read this part, but we really have kind of took this text and we broke it down, and we really are trying to understand the kitten. So this lady is using a cat as an example because they're abandoned and they're trying to find homes, and she's using the cat is trying to say her home, that they're trying to find work and they're trying to find these things. And you know, like, are we like kittens? Are we just trying to find a home and at the mercy of somebody bigger than us? And they're basically talking about the landowners and the people that are giving them the jobs. And as a kitten, you know, they're at the mercy of their owners. And that's how she is using this metaphor, because, you know, we really aren't kittens. And the man even flipped it around and was trying to throw what Martha was saying back to her and saying, what if this cat, meaning himself, just wants to take care of his family? Like, they don't want to strike. They don't want to cause confrontation, that they just want to work where they're at and to take care of the family. Because you know what, folks, this is what they're trying to do. They're just trying to survive. And Martha feels like they need better. And a lot of people just want to take care of their family. And so we have to ask ourselves, why is the author doing this? Why is he comparing things to kittens? And why is she adding all these extra components? And stuff like this did really happen. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is the theme and what is she inferring to? And trying to figure out what the big theme of the book is. And I thought that was a good metaphor to use kittens, and even little cute kittens. And the kittens didn't get hurt, and Isabella did end up getting the kitten, I will add, as you read in the book. But can you guys think of any other metaphors that were in the book? Yeah, so if you can think of any other, write them down. Share them with your neighbor or your parents or whoever is watching this video with you. Just go ahead and share with them. This is great. So we didn't have an entrance ticket, but today we have an exit ticket. So your exit ticket today is, I want you to choose to write about either the rose bush or the kitten. Why is this a big metaphor? And we talked why they're a big metaphor, But why is it so important to the story? And what message is the author trying to give us readers? So you really are going to reread, you're going to think, and then I want you to write. This is your exit ticket. And if you need to go back and look at ours, I know I'm going to attach a PDF. If you still don't have your book, you can read it online or have somebody read it to you. And then before we come back next week, make sure you read chapter 9, Las Caruzas, Plums. And you just have a fantastic weekend. I know there's a holiday this weekend. I just hope everybody stays safe and enjoy their time. And I'll see you later. Have a nice summer day. Thank you for joining me.